stories and for all the effort you put into this project. Please come back. Please come back to the next The Arts and Depot events. There will be one more in fall. And thank you for everyone organizing. I will give the microphone to Jamila. We've been on this stage together before. Amazing. It was a great experience. I couldn't do all the stations, but I heard some music. I was sitting in a children's home. There were people massaged. Yeah, beautiful. Yeah. Jamila, would you like the microphone? Have a nice evening.
Thank you so much, Sarah. It's always a pleasure to be here at Depot in various functions and modes of connectedness. So yeah, good evening from my side. Hello to everyone joining us in the stream and also here in the space. My name is Jamila Granditz. I'm connected to the Arts office in various modes and very pleased to welcome all of you today to the second Arts session. Thanks for the space and hosting to the Depot and also for the streaming facilities and the technicalities. The session is going to be held in English, but the workshop was as well. And yeah, me too, I really enjoyed the performances. I'm in a really nice space right now. So the second session, the Arts session volume number 2, is on community-based working. And in this event series, it's all about thinking through practices, taking a closer look at collective and community-based forms of collaboration, finding examples for practices with on the intersection of artistic and curatorial processes. How do they rely on solidarity within an emerging community? What is care all about, as we've experienced, heard, and practiced together already? So, and who's behind all that? The wonderful Sheri Avraham. A big applause. And Gabriel Moncayo Asan. The two of them. Woo! The two of them working as curators, artists, researchers, stylists, editors, producers, and together they've been creating this wonderful project called Ayns for a long time already. It's been going through different stages, and this is one of the many ones and the many shapes it's taking. And it's not only the two of them, but there's an entire group of students from the University of Applied Arts, from the Vienna Master of Applied Human Rights, and there's Chiara, Tallinn, Miriam, Mo, Monica, Navika, sorry, Sarah, Muriel, and Marina. Is it? I'm sorry. I was like, yeah, Marina. So, yeah. Hey, welcome, and thank you for creating and shaping the space and the experience. And this is actually being a podcast, a live podcast session on collective archiving. So I'll stop speaking and hand over to you, Sheri. Thank you so much. To Chiara. Muriel. That's a mess. Thank you.
I'm going to use the microphone on the stand.
I'm going to be the technician today.
name is Muriel. This is the Presence Manifesto. As a theater maker and educator, a lot of my study and teaching has revolved around presence. In my first class with acting students, I usually ask them to walk on stage and introduce them by their name. And almost every time, without exceptions, students add to my instructions. So they come up on stage and they fiddle with their hands. They keep talking faster. They gesture. They jump on stage. And every time, my feedback is exactly the same. Now just come on stage, stand still, and say your name. Would someone come on stage and say their name? Anyone?
Hi, my name is Narika.
Thank you. My feedback to these acting students is about reduction. Reducing the noise that distracts them from actually being present with what they're supposed to be doing as actors, and also the noise that distracts others from listening to them. Presence is reduction to channel focus. To have presence requires to be present. In a world that is guided by an attention-grabbing economy, to be present is actually hard work. When applications that we need for work actually are supposed to keep you from work, when social media tries to grab your attention entirely and all the time, when radio stations are infiltrated with advertisements, then we're spending more time with algorithmic versions of ourselves than in the presence. Presence, therefore, requires active effort and a voluntary refusal to get distracted. Are you present now, or is something distracting you? Presence is active participation. It requires alertness, attentiveness, awareness, and a choice to actually take part in the presence. As many during COVID, I started ruminating about life and death, and I actually started writing my last will. And I thought if there's anything in life I still wanted to do, where I wanted to devote my presence. And at the same time, I grew a want to escape, because I was living in Switzerland, it was beautiful, but something in the world had ruptured, and nothing of this place seemed to represent that. But I didn't know where to escape to. And at the same time, while I was forced to be standing still like many others and observe the spring come and go, I also grew a new placelessness that stood in opposite to this placelessness that I felt. And I began to think where I wanted to settle, and I suddenly felt like I needed to know that. And I started to ask questions like, what natural elements would I find in this place? What sort of ecosystem? What sort of social structures did I want to surround myself with? What could I not do without? So there was an almost unbearable tension between the placelessness and the placelessness. Do you know which place you belong to? What social systems you're part of? What bioregion do you actually identify with? After COVID, a lot of my friends started to create housing groups and started talking about moving into the countryside to create communes. Another friend actually bought a van and decided to move to some sort of remote place. And they live entirely self-sustaining, and yet another one went on an adventure to Colombia, married, and decided to have a new life there. But to me, presence is not about an escape. Rather than escaping politics, escaping to another world, escaping our capitalist system, escaping to find life somewhere else? What if we escape into the presence? What if we find paying attention to where we are and find opportunities to engage? Present means to remain in place and listen. And to define listen, I borrow from the composer Pauline Oliveros, who was experimenting with deep listening in the 70s during the Vietnam War as a sort of opposition and resistance practice. And she says that while hearing is the physical means that enable perception, listen is actually to give attention to what is perceived both acoustically and psychologically. Listening means giving attention to what you perceive. As an artist, I find listening as an absolute crucial ingredient to find creativity, because listening allows you to notice, and when you notice, you actually find inspiration. Your creativity doesn't come from anywhere. It comes from noticing, and through that getting inspired, and through that making connections. In order to collaborate in the theater, to make collective decisions together, this requires acute listening, respect, and the capacity to ceaselessly be inventive amongst group negotiation. And this was also a process that we lived through here. So if you close your eyes just now, what are the sounds you hear? Is there any sound you didn't notice before? I believe that listening with one's entire body is the physical manifestation of deep respect and the key to collective decision-making. Listening also has to do with the very real implications of what we pay attention to and what not, and this renders our reality. What we devote our presence to is actually the data, the set of data that we collect and make decisions on. Presence thus also requires humility and openness, because to seek context is already acknowledging that you don't have the whole story. Context is what appears when you hold your attention open for long enough, and even longer, because the longer you keep your attention open, the more context you get. What grabs your attention now? Is it already boring? Could it become interesting if you stay open for just a little longer? Presence is tolerance, because it requires you to hold a multitude of inputs in the same body at the same moment, and that's a lot. If we can use presence to open our perception and render a new reality, it follows that we might meet each other by paying attention to the same things and to each other. From either a social or an ecological perspective, which we heard multiple things of today, the ultimate goal of being present thus takes focus away from attention-grabbing economies and replace it back to the public and the physical realm. My experience with presence as a theater maker also suggests that when you find presence, a real and irreversible change happens. Once you notice something, you actually can't revert it. Once you notice what a room looks like, you can't go back to not noticing. Once you notice what the bird sounds like and you connect it with a bird, you cannot not hear this bird anymore. Once you actually see the climate change, you notice the temperatures to be warm, you cannot unsee. Presence also thus suggests to find a new form of placelessness versus a placelessness. That suggests a sensitivity and a responsibility also for the historical, so what happens in the place that you actually are at, and the ecological, who or what and where and lives here. What if we start thinking about being present and being present at the places we inhabit? What would happen if we start not thinking of our personal ID to be associated with some abstract nation state, but actually with a bioregion that we are committed to stewarding together, or to the people that we care about? What if we withdraw our presence from our attention-grabbing economy and invest it back into restoration of care and of ecosystems like we heard today? Presence defies also the limits of a single person and takes up space. Because one thing I've learned about being attention is that when you pay attention to something and you're for a long time with someone else, this person starts paying attention to the same things and vice versa. Practicing presence, therefore, carries revolutionary potential. To capitalist logic, there might be indeed something dangerous about a person who walks around Maria-Hilfer-Straße and pays attention to musicians on the street, or to colors of people's shopping bags, or to the birds that are there, or to the frequencies in which taxis drive through the street. Because escaping lateral towards each other, we might very well find out that everything we wanted is actually already here. Hello, I am Muriel, and I'm happy to be present with all of you.
Chiara, and my name is Sheri.
Hi, I'm Navi.
I'm Sarah.
That's Sarah.
I'm Marina.
That's getting filmed as well?
Did everyone go?
No.
Hi, I am Mohammed.
I'm Miri. Hi.
Hi, my name is Sarah. Hello.
Hi, Navi again.
Hi, my name is Muriel.
Hi, I'm Chiara.
Huh? Talin, hi.
What?
Talin. Marina.
Sheri.
Hello, I'm Gabi. So, welcome to this beautiful presentation. I mean, maybe we can just start into talking about what a collective is. So Sheri and I compose Club Havara, and we also are part of Ayns. And we can, maybe I could, from a personal experience, we could say a collective is just a group of people from different artistic practices coming together to form a common goal, right? To work towards a project. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. You might argue, you might not argue, you might get along. There's good days, there's bad days. But you know, at the end is this group of people that are coming together for this sole purpose. So I have one question for all of you. Well, I have two questions, but I would like each one of you to take your time and answer it. And yeah, so my first question would be, so what does a collective mean to you, and how did you apply that in this project? Who wants to begin?
No? No? Yes. Hi. Now you hear me. So I don't necessarily have a lot of experience of working in collectives. I come from a film context, and there you always work with big teams, but it's very hierarchical, structured. But the word collective itself, even though maybe a bit overused at this point, but it means a lot to me in like a much more general sense of how we all live in a collective and how we all have to communicate with each other. Like joining a collective is obviously a choice, and like working in a collective is obviously one part that you do on purpose and like by choice. But as a society, we live in a collective, and we are collectively working together more or less good. And thus I love the word a lot. That's like my first association.
Hi, I'm Sarah for the zillionth time. Well, actually, I've been involved in collectives my whole life, I think, since I was a kid. So to me, it's a very important thing. I actually live in a collective also here in Vienna, a community. We actually call it a community. It's sort of a comuna. So I don't know, it has always been very important to me. And I actually myself started a collective in Mexico within the Mexican Jewish community. I'm Jewish. Otherwise it will be very weird, right? Yeah. So yeah, I mean, and the way I see it is that collectives are just necessary. Like, we need to come together, as the Beatles say, right now, and you know, do actually something together, achieve something, as you said it. And well, in this project, I actually sort of wanted to talk about how the feminist movement is a big collective. I spoke from my own experience and perspective, as I mentioned it to some of you. I'm from Mexico. And feminist movement is very big there, but I think that it's spreading, right? Like, and all over the world. And I think that right now, really, we're kind of breathing together as feminists. You know, like regardless of where we come from, what we like to eat or anything, like that's, I don't know, that's the importance for me. Yes, good.
Hi. So, I mean, for me, collective work is related to being raised in a refugee camp, because in a refugee camp, you have lack of resources, so people gather to collectively to solve problems. So it's, I mean, for me, collective work, there's an issue that you have to deal with it as a group. And as a group, each person coming from background, that helps a lot. However, this dynamics, I felt less when I went to Europe. I felt it's more individual, as I studied also media, conception, production, so I also come from film background, and as Tallinn said, it's more hierarchical. It's like teams working together, specific tasks. I mean, and that's why I shifted away also from collective work as well. What does it mean to me? It means achievements. I mean, I think it's the pure way of achievement, because it's connected to the past, where I come from, to my heritage as well. It's how my society used to function, and I miss it somehow. And that's why I think I have to focus more in the future to join more collectives and to find time for it. So yeah, because it needs a lot of time and effort for sure.
I think I can relate to some of the things that Tallinn, Sarah, and Mo said, but I was thinking of something additional to that is how much we put of our kind of more individual selves in it, and how much we see the presence and the existence of other people in it. So a moment in this collective that really was important to me was when we were rehearsing here, and we saw like each of us showing a bit more of ourselves in that sense. And I feel like it's a lot about that dialogue of how much do I put of myself in it, how much other people put of themselves, and how that talks.
Yeah, maybe I can add on this because we're just on the how we've been working. I think one thing is that I've been working in collectively in theater work before, right, where there is not necessarily a hierarchical division of roles. It doesn't mean that specific tasks or responsibilities don't emerge as part of the process, but generally you start off as on common grounds, and everyone is part of the creation, like on the similar grounds, with everything they are, meaning all of their ideas are also sort of there. And I'm always skeptical about it every single time I go into it, even though I've done it a few times, because it's a really hard exercise in listening and letting go and negotiating a space where we actually, and that goes back to radical care, where you're actually with the people and acknowledge how everyone is in that moment, and it's not just about achieving a certain goal at a given time, but you're actually there, and the work evolves out of the process of being with each other. And I think that's really challenging, but I also actually believe that it is where very interesting work comes out of it. Maybe not, and I was about to say the best work, but I think the best again gives it some sort of like a measurement, like that we can say. I don't think it is. I think what it is it comes stuff out of it that would not have come if it was not collective work. And that is creating an alternate to what we just know. And I think that's the crucial thing to explore about collectives anywhere. It doesn't have to be in an artistic context.
Sorry, I need a bit. But I agree to what was already said. I volunteered all my life, and I played a lot of theater when I was still in school, and like in the beginning years of my when I went to university. But like especially the volunteering part, which then ended up in a lot of activism. And for me, like collective work also like means working towards a goal together, and then also being able like to celebrate no matter if you reach the goal or not, because you were working for this cause together. And I feel like this togetherness, knowing that everyone who's like in a group or in the collective is like going for the same topic, fighting for the same cause, that gives a lot to me. And like knowing that you together can achieve something, or like generally can create, just like on a mere basis of creating. Yeah, and generally being together with people, like as Sara already mentioned in the Comuna, I think that's very important to me, because you know that you can also like fall back on those people and talk to them, but then again, you can be together with them. Yeah, that was it. Bye. Thank you for coming. Oh.
Okay, I'm just gonna go on now. So what does a collective mean to me? I think for me it means a lot to be very, very patient, to be open, to be able to change my point of view, like radically change my point of view and go into my non-comfort zone a lot, I guess. But yeah, I think it also means kind of everything, because like, yeah, what would life be if you're just alone and if you're not in a collective? I mean, yeah, maybe more philosophical approach, but I enjoyed it a lot to be in a collective with you guys. And I think we had a very nice night. Us too. I'm gonna give it on now.
Okay. Hi. I really like the
concept of societal collective. I guess collective, this was my sort of first experience. I remember the first day you were like, give us a definition. I was like, worked in an NGO, I don't know. But I really liked the openness we had as a group, even just for choosing the idea that they just brainstorming together. We were just bawling off each other, and I don't know, I enjoyed the process, even if we had like limited time. We were giving what we had, and I don't know, it was a really good space.
That's it? So what collective is for me? I mean, as some of you know, I have a lot of experience with collectives, but I have to admit that this year is my favorite collective. And I'm like so amazed. I'm so lucky. I'm so proud of being able to participate in this beautiful collective. Thank you for having me, and kind of that we would manage to play together. But yeah, collectives for me is, I'm going to react to some of the things that we were saying. I think more you were saying collective is coming from some certain communities that we grew up with, and I can identify myself as well with those collectives. Growing up in a village, if there is a family gathering, if there is a wedding, funeral, the whole village is coming together and creating this event happening. So since I grew up, the pots of the soups was bigger than me, and I was cooking with the women of the village in order to serve the men of the villages. But we were all like in a open kitchen and cooking and cutting and serving and cleaning, and that was like people that I never saw, people that I saw the first time and I knew that I would never see again. So for me that was really like the beginning of a collective, of a self-understanding, me inside of a group that half of them are stranger, but I still feel as home as fuck. Sorry. We heard today a beautiful performance about radical listening, and I would as well emphasize, because you said it already, radical acceptance, because it's really important to listen in order to understand each other, in order to understand what we want to say, and in order to understand what we would like to say. But it's not enough. It's really important for us to radically accept the other person, their perspective, their point of view, and then try to understand how we can integrate it within whatever we call a collective, a community. It is important as well when we are understanding what the other person that is sitting around me needs in order for me to give as well a space. So a collective is as well to know where I put myself in the front and where I take myself backwards, because that balance has to be constantly made by all the participants of a collective in order for that to be possible. I love collectives, or I love the process of working with the collectives, because for me, whatever we have here can be considered as an outcome of our process together, but our process together for me was the outcome. The time that we met, the way that we met, the way that we arranged that we want to meet or we don't want to meet, it was us deciding together if we want to meet or if we need to meet or if everybody is able to meet. And then there is no, that's exactly the collective moment for me, that we decide what is the capacity that I can share and what is the capacity, what I can take as well. That's it. I think I finished my experience with collectives. Of course, my Club Havara is my hometown, but I really enjoy archiving collectives.
Beautiful, thank you.
Let's drink.
So we're going to keep talking about collective, but so how did it apply to your individual performance or work? How did the collective apply to your performance?
Okay, I can go. I wouldn't say to the individual performances, but I think
it's about what I said before in terms of like what is being created. I think in that the process in a collective is not a linear thing. It's not that you create a concept and then that concept is developed and implemented by a couple of people and the roles are being distributed. And so I think our process was definitely circular. Like we came with an idea, then something happened, then new input came, then we went back. And I think what was the result of what is in here is also part of what people wanted to share, and a bit of like what Sheri said. It's also about recognizing capacities. And I think actually very often those are not recognized in many different situations. And so I think what came out is, or what influenced is our work is that, it's this sort of circular process, and you can see it. And I think you can also see that some people shared in a more discussion format, some people there was a certain liberty to choose also. And we didn't need a coherent whole. Like we decided to be fine not having a coherency all the way through. And I think that's also a challenge, because that's what we're always looking for in processes. We look for a product, like you said, the word product. We're looking for product, we're looking for coherency, we're looking for a concept that is followed through. We look for a step that's being linear, because that's what we feel most comfortable in inhabiting and presenting in the felt. And that way we can say, here's the achievement. And I think that's what is also this idea of focusing on a process, is that the achievement does not just lie within this, but I still think that is sort of reflected in the format that was present here today.
That's great, but I want to know about your individual performances. How does the collective go into your individual performances?
I totally missed your point, but great.
Well, I'm Sara. I'm from Mexico. I'm Jewish.
Wait, what?
Yeah. I'm a feminist, yes. Yes. Maybe later. Sorry, okay. So I think, I don't know, what I feel that it was very nice in my space is that the conversation evolution. I had two groups, and I think that in each group we kind of talked about something completely different, even though it was a station that was sort of talking about femicide. I don't know how you guys, the people who were in my station, felt, but I thought that was very cool, like how the conversation was evolving and how we all sort of were just pitching in with ideas and mentioning things that we knew about the topic, right, from our own perspective, countries, points of view. So I thought that it was really nice, and even like the first group stayed for way longer than I expected, so that was really incredible. Yeah, I don't know if you want to say something about that, and in the second one I thought it was also really nice how, I don't know, there was a connection, right? Like I started to talk about what's happening in Mexico, and then you sort of were like, yeah, I also feel the same for my country and for what's happening in Bulgaria. So that's also something amazing about conversation and collectives, that you can find things in common everywhere, right? Like, and if you have these sort of spaces where you can connect with people from Bulgaria. I don't think I ever met anyone from Bulgaria in my life, but we have something now in common, right? Something very powerful and very deep, and that's amazing. And that's because of collectives. Yeah.
I mean, I honestly, I came up with the idea to whatever it was that I wanted to talk about, thinking about collectives and the whole, like, how we as a collective can carry responsibility or not, or what the chance in that is also, or what our singular individual responsibility is in the collective of it all. But I guess that was very inspired by the whole thought.
First of all, one comment I have to make about this microphone, it reminds me of ZDF because of the orange color. It's a news thing in Germany, like a public one owned by the like, yeah, kind of. Yeah, come on, it's orange. No worries.
I like to be from.
Honestly, I feel fancy if I imagine this. No, what I talked about was the personal experience, because when I thought about like what I was going to talk about, I thought about like the experiences I made while doing activism, and that was the one experience I think I'll never forget, and I think that was the experience. There's not much to say. Yeah, and collective artwork, and having fun with my flatmates because they were super excited to get their breasts painted. Yeah, I mean, I understand it because I used a paintbrush to paint their nipples, and they liked it.
Me. Well, for me, I think the decision on the format of doing it over kind of like this conversational thing that I really wanted to do, and knowing that it would like evolve as I can't like really predict how, and it depending on the person who's there. And that was the special thing about it, and that's the collective element of constructing the thing that it's gonna happen based on people.
So for me, it was like putting my personal experience, and then we had discussions as well, which opened my eyes to also a lot of things that I didn't see. For example, by choosing the photos and the relation between the photos that I have to show as well. We had a collective, we had like a feedback session, it opened my eyes really to a part that I didn't see doing my work. So it was like my personal fingerprint and my personal experience, and there was on it, like there's a collective discussion came up with the result. So it's a mix of both, I would say, and that's how it affected me through the feedback session that we had recently.
My brain is kind of in sleeping mode at that time of the day. Could you repeat the question?
How did the collective infiltrate your performance?
Well, I think it started with a very collective thought, because care is not something we can think about individually. It's always linked to thinking of collectives, however small that might be. So, yeah, I guess it was influenced by that from the starting point, and of course by the work we did together, by our endless discussions and adapting and adapting and adapting, and yeah, I think in every minute it was influenced by collectives, I would say. So. Who's brave? Well, first the discussions in the group, and then I wanted to see what brings together collective, what unifies it, and that's what I did in my conversation, I think, exploring last generation. And then it was also super nice to connect with the people I talked to. When they drew on me, it was, I don't know, a sharing moment that was really beautiful for me. So, yeah.
One thing that I found interesting, actually, because we're talking about collectives a lot, and we're obviously, like, that was the lecture or the idea, but we also did very individual, singular performances. And I think that relies back to what Sheri said about the capabilities and capacities that we had. And while the performances were so individual and like we really all did our own little thing, so we really like talking about a collective in that context is a bit funny, but the process to get there and the process to also like rely on each other in the sense of like, hey, can you bring this for me, or hey, can you have some feedback here, or okay, my capabilities are stopping here, can somebody else take over? Like this process is something that we looked at and that I found very interesting in this class or in this course, because that's a huge part of collective work. Even if you don't develop a performance together, you still have to communicate with each other in some form. And that was very interesting. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Sheri, would you like to say some last words?
Of course. I'm going to talk about my collectives. And the recent collective, the Archive Collective, talked and shared about the collectives. I just want to share that in this collective I was performing the role of facilitator. So I was not per se participating in the collective, because when we're creating in that institution such kind of structure of working, and I'm getting paid for being there, and the others gets maybe credits for their for coming, so it's kind of creating an unbalanced situation where we must most of the time as well experiencing in our life when we are working collectives, there is a very strict hierarchy. So when developing what would be that Zusammenkommen, I would say it like that. I would not call it a course or Lehrveranstaltung, and I would not call myself educator or teacher. I was saying that in the beginning, I'm a facilitator, and my role is to create a situation that we are all able to express ourselves, and sometimes having the ability to make some jokes in between, so to create the atmosphere a little bit more comfortable for us to share, to listen, and to accept radically. I hope I might work well. In the recent year, now I'm going to start a little bit lecture, so pay it, or you can go to sleep for 5 minutes, or you can join me for the 5 seconds of exploring different collectives. As you know, it's the arts event. The arts was as well 3 women, and I was part of them, people that generated a new understanding of what art and culture should look like. We had amazing 2 years of intensive work where we were experimenting with different methods of interfering with the hegemony structures of art and culture in Vienna, I would say mainly, in Austria. I think we managed to do well by sharing a lot of our personal resources and sharing a lot of our emotional resources. Now it's kind of the 3rd year that the arts became to be kind of an institution, I would say. And the 3 of us are kind of letting go from this institution. So the next year would be the Vorstand already. So another form of collective was chosen by the network, that it's a broader sense of collective. So different art institutions, artists, galleries, activists were voting for 6 people to continue creating the next collective. So it's kind of 3 different collectives that were created. The first were 3 of us, Susanna Ayns, that she's here, Ivana Pilic, and myself. There was the first art project collective, Projektbüro, the Arts Projektbüro für Diversität und Urbanen Dialog. Now it's kind of a smooth transition before going to the, so to say, the 3rd collective. I cannot live. I think I was trying really hard to kind of think of how to create a collective that is a different way of having this notion. You know, I'm an artist, and I grew up with the notion that the artist is its own human creation, and sitting alone in the atelier and creating amazing things by himself, mainly him. And I think as well with the arts, and as well with Zero Ayns, and as well with different collectives that I was working with, is a constant kind of standing against or position in front of what seems to be very natural, because nothing is natural, everything is things that we are telling ourselves. And if we're telling ourselves that it is possible or it's impossible to create anything without having a collective. So me painting a picture on the wall with my hands, it's a collective work, because there is so many people that brought me to this place that I'm able to paint a line on the wall. But the structure is very difficult, so I hope we kind of maybe for ourselves and for all the people that we know kind of prove that we can do it better together. Yeah, finished.
Thank you so much.
Thank you everyone for coming. It was an amazing experience, and you should really give yourself a round of applause for the performance that you put today.
Okay, Sophia, I will be right with you. I just go to the toilet.